Hey everybody, it's NVidia, and this is a complete game changer. We now have the ability to use our NVIDIA graphics cards on the real SteamOS, Valve SteamOS. In today's video, I'll be sharing one of my SteamOS gaming rigs that has absolutely no AMD hardware in it whatsoever. I'll be sharing example gameplay on that rig while using NVIDIA's DLSS technology. I'll provide a full step-by-step guide on how to slipstream NVIDIA's drivers right into the Valve SteamOS install image. I'll provide a full step-by-step guide on how to install SteamOS, and I'll even provide a full guide on how to dual boot with your existing Windows installation. Grab you something to snack on and something to sip on, because we got a lot to unpack here. Let's take a quick tour now that we've got a resolution that keeps GameScope happy. So if we go under System here, we can see that we're running SteamOS Hollow, Steam Deck variant 3.8.16. This is the build from July 16th. And so, notice I don't have a serial number because this is a PC I built. Here's another interesting fact. I'm not running a AMD Ryzen build. This is a 13th generation Core i7 build. But look at this. Here's my RTX 4080. And it's running NVIDIA driver 610. And we've got 16 gigs of VRAM on the GPU. And if we go into desktop mode, you can actually see a little bit more details. Right, so if we go into systems and then about the system, you can see here, it's a 13th generation Core i7 with 32 gigs of RAM, and we've got a discrete NVIDIA RTX 4080 GPU. You can even see the model of my motherboard here. So I'm actually using a limited edition Sonic the Hedgehog motherboard. A quick note before we get started, this is not all rainbows and butterflies. It's highly experimental. There will be turbulence. This is not supported by Valve or NVIDIA at this time. In general, the process tries to, as much as possible, make it update agnostic. It uses dynamic kernel module support to respin the NVIDIA kernel modules, but anytime there's a major OS bump or the kernel changes significantly, it will break, and you'll have to recreate your install media. You can use the repair functionality to reinstall the SteamOS payload without deleting your user data, so your home partition should be able to stay intact. One neat thing, the developer that put together the tools that I'm using in today's video, he noticed that there's already a 5.7.5 version of the NVIDIA driver baked into the 3.8 image. So Valve is already fiddling around with NVIDIA at this point. If I had to hedge any bets, I would suspect that Valve is going to have a version of SteamOS that officially supports NVIDIA hardware this upcoming summer of 2027, possibly as early as spring. The reason I believe this is this follows the same release cadence that they've had over the last two major updates. Summer of 2025 included support for the original Legion Go and Legion Go S. This summer we got support for the Legion Go 2 and the Xbox Ally, so it only makes sense. It's a natural progression. Next summer we'll see pretty much every PC being supported. I'm going to check out Spider-Man Miles Morales. All right, so detects it full screen, 3440 by 1440. Let's turn HDR on. Make sure all heck doesn't break loose. Looks good. We've got, look at this. This is a sight for sore eyes here. I was so tired of seeing FSR upscaling. Look at this. We've got NVIDIA DLSS. And let's disable dynamic resolution scaling. And yeah, so I'm going to leave frame gen disabled. We'll leave DLSS on for our upscale, and we're targeting quality. And that looks good. Even in this screen, typically the game gets bogged down on other devices I've tested, and I'll see it dip below the nominal FPS. But here we're staying close to our 100 FPS. I have a feeling that this is going to be no problem on this GPU. I haven't played this game on my 4080 yet, but it looks good.
Where you at? You get into the apartment okay?
Yeah, your mom let me in. Unpacked / dumped my stuff all over your floor. And now I'm in the park. Got his there.
Oh, perfect! Dip over to the amphitheater. Got something to show you.
Look at that. We're pretty much locked in at 100 FPS. The game looks absolutely beautiful. This is running beautifully. Let's go down to the street and see if there's any problem. We have extra models being rendered, and it still looks phenomenal. Yeah, if you're looking to buy a new GPU for your gaming rig, or you already have an NVIDIA GPU, just hang tight. Amazing things are coming down the pipeline. Look at this. Absolutely beautiful. And in a little bit here, I'm going to do a comparison with Black Myth Wukong under Windows and under SteamOS. Wow. Now let's take a look at slipstreaming our NVIDIA driver into our SteamOS install media to create a new install image. All right, so the first thing we're gonna wanna do is head over to Valve's support website for SteamOS install and repair images. We click on this installing SteamOS. Number one is the location of where to get your Steam Deck recovery image. So we're gonna click on that. We're gonna accept the license and then click download. And we're just gonna allow this to download. It takes a few minutes. All right, now that our SteamOS recovery image is done downloading, we're gonna head over to 28 All Days GitHub repo called SteamOS-NVIDIA-installer. So let's talk about this project for a second. This is hot off the press. A special thanks to 28 All Day. I'm gonna leave the GitHub repository as well as their channel in the description of my video here. This is gonna slipstream all the NVIDIA driver dependencies into the SteamOS install image. It's best if you're working off of a Linux box. This could be your gaming handheld already running Linux, and it's even better if you're using an Arch Linux-based Linux distro. For example, that could be SteamOS or CachyOS. It's likely that this will work on other Linux distros, but this has only been tested under Arch so far. And so I'm on SteamOS. I'm on SteamOS on my RTX 4080 machine, and we're gonna use that to build our new install media. I was able to use the Innovision Games custom dual boot script to dual boot Windows alongside with SteamOS that's running on my NVIDIA hardware. So if I go to System here, go to KDE Partition Manager, we'll log in here real quick, and let's just take a look. So you can see we've got the same layout where the first four partitions are for Windows. So we got our EFI for Windows, we got our Windows recovery, and then this is where our C drive is. And then everything beyond that is SteamOS. The SteamOS custom install script works right out of the box. So if you have created yourself an NVIDIA SteamOS installable media, you can just download our custom install script and it's gonna work. And I might fork off of this and integrate everything into one tidy place. So let's carry on here. Make sure you're on Arch Linux. That could be SteamOS or CachyOS. Likely other Linux distros will work. If you happen to be using another Linux distro and try it out, drop a comment, let us know how it went. One other call out, once you've actually gone through and installed everything, at the very end, you're gonna have to run this command to remove this sudo file once you've set your password on your installed system. And so that's at the very end. And likely you're going to be installing DecuLoader, which requires you to set your root password. So after you've got that all set up, you're going to want to run this command. So let's go ahead and start creating our recovery media. So I'm going to go over to this code here, and I'm going to copy the clone command, and I'm going to go ahead and open up a terminal or a console. And we're going to type in git clone and then paste that URL. It's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and change into that directory. And you can see here this SteamOS-NVIDIA-installer.sh, it's already an executable. We're going to be running that command. Before we run the command, we need to unpack our recovery image into the same folder that this install script is. So I'm going to double click on this and I'm going to navigate to the location here. And I'm just going to drag and drop it right in there. And this is going to take a few minutes, so I'm just going to let it run. All right, so our image has been unpacked into our SteamOS NVIDIA installer directory. And I'm just going to close some windows here to tidy up a little bit. We see our recovery image is right there. So we're just going to type in sudo space // paste the name of the script, and then paste the name of the recovery image, and then hit enter. And it's going to ask for our password. And here it goes. Let's let it rip. So once this is all done, then we're going to have to flash it to our USB install media. And this takes just a few minutes. One of the neat things about this tool is once you've actually installed SteamOS using this recovery media, in theory, all of your drivers and NVIDIA related dependencies should persist in between SteamOS updates. To simulate this, I've actually switched between main and stable a few times and everything works like a champ. All right, so this finished. Just a couple of notes here. To be able to use it, you need to disable secure boot. And this is targeting NVIDIA RTX or newer graphics cards. This is using the open NVIDIA driver, and the open NVIDIA driver is only compatible with RTX or newer graphics cards. So let's go ahead and clear this here. And so we see our updated install image. It's the same name as before, but with -NVIDIA USB install.image. So I'm gonna plug in a USB storage device, and it's plugged in. And so what I want to do is see which device it is. So I'm gonna type in sudo space dmessage. It's SDA. That's our attached USB. Our drive is SDA. If there's ever any ambiguity, you could actually go over here to KDE Partition Manager and just see the drive. And you see here, this is my 64 gig USB storage, and it's dev/SDA. We're gonna type in sudo space dd space if equals, and then we're gonna paste the name of our install image. And then we're gonna say of equals /dev/SDA. Let me just copy this last bit of the command here. So this is just saying we're going to do it in increments of size 4 megabytes. We want to show the progress, and we want to run fsync to flush the changes to disk. That looks good, and I'm just going to hit enter. And there it goes. This takes, between 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the speed of your USB storage media. And once this is all said and done, you'll have a USB install media that has NVIDIA drivers already slipstreamed into it. You can boot it on your NVIDIA desktop. What's really cool here is I'm not even using an AMD based system. So I'm kind of doing the most varied hardware configuration test here. I'm on an Intel Core i7 13th generation with the RTX 4080. And I'm very happy with how things are running. I think it's time for me to upgrade my living room PC to SteamOS. All right, and it is done. And so now we can just disable secure boot on our target machine, boot off of this install media, and install SteamOS, and you're good to go. A couple of notes before you attempt to boot off of your SteamOS install media. First and foremost, secure boot needs to be disabled in your BIOS. You need to be able to change the boot order so that you're booting off your USB install media. And more importantly, the NVIDIA driver only supports RTX powered graphics cards and newer. So if you're on an older graphics card, you still have to use the proprietary driver. This process will not work. For the remainder of the video, I'll be showing you how to either install SteamOS in a way that will wipe your entire SSD, or how to dual boot SteamOS to share the same SSD with your existing Windows installation. I've booted into my PC's BIOS. I've got my SteamOS install media with the NVIDIA driver slipstreamed into it. It's plugged into my machine. And I'm going to go under my advanced BIOS settings and go to security. And under secure boot, I have it disabled here. So I'm going to move up my USB storage media to the first and topmost boot option here. And I'll hit F10 to save my setup and continue. And so now it's going to start booting off of the install media. What's really cool here, you'll see the NVIDIA driver getting loaded in the kernel messages here. There it goes. All right, so once it's finished booting up, we're gonna be greeted by our SteamOS desktop. We have a few options here. If you wanna use your entire SSD for SteamOS, you'll double click this icon on the desktop, install SteamOS to hard drive. It gives you a UI to select which disk you wanna install it to. And this is great for PC users because you may have more than one SSD and you wanna put SteamOS on a different one. And this effectively would give you a way to dual boot. If you want to install SteamOS on the same SSD that Windows is currently installed on, and that's what I'm going to do here in this setup, I'll show you how to use the custom install script to manage that. So first things first, let's go to System and then KDE Partition Manager. And If you have Windows installed on your SSD, it'll look like this. So here I have a 2 terabyte NVMe SSD. The first partition is the EFI bootloader. The second partition is something that Windows keeps for bookkeeping. The third one, which is the majority of the disk space, is actually the C drive. And then the very last one is the recovery partition. It's using 850 megabytes. So what we're going to want to do is resize our C drive, and 84 is already allocated, so we can't go smaller than that. So I'll right click and go to resize move, and I'm actually going to just make these zeros right here to achieve that. I want to give close to 800 to SteamOS, and so yeah, we got about 884 that's going to be unallocated. So I'm going to click apply. This takes just a few seconds. All right, that's done, but I want to move this to the very end. So what we're going to do is right click on this recovery partition and then do resize move, and the free space before should be 0 now. So I'm going to delete that and put a 0 there, and it's going to move all the free space to the tail end there. See how it moved there to free space after? Click OK, click apply. All right, so now we've got 884 unallocated at the end. That looks good to me. And so let's just take note here. The first 4 partitions are for Windows. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the very last partition is the recovery partition. We're going to start installing SteamOS at partition index number 5. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and open a terminal. So we'll go to System and then Console. Make the text a little bit bigger. And so I'm going to type in wget space https://innovision-games.com/steam-os-custom-install.sh. And I'll have the command as well as the GitHub repository in the description of the video. So I'm going to hit enter here, and it pulled down the file, and we need to make it an executable. So we're going to type in chmod space a plus x and then the name of the script. And so now you see how it shows up in this kind of light blue color. That means it's an executable. And so we're just going to type in sudo space // and the name of the script, and then hit enter. And so the first thing we're greeted with here is a warning that this will, you have 2 options here. You can wipe the entire disk, or you can provide partition indices telling the script where to install the SteamOS payload. And so I'm going to go ahead and click proceed. And so it's prompting us, very similar to the tool that's built into the installer here, it's prompting us to ask us where we would like to install it. So you can also specify an alternate storage media. This could be a hard drive, USB storage, or the same SSD. And so this is the default one, is the only SSD that I have on this machine. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then it's asking us for the SSD partition suffix. The default is P. We're just going to use that. And then now this is where things get interesting. If you click yes, it's going to wipe the entire SSD. If you click no, it's going to prompt us for partition indices. And so I'm going to click no. And we want to install SteamOS starting at index number 5. Remember, Windows is using the first 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our unallocated space starts at index 5. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the defaults here. 5 for EFI A and B, we're going to use 6 and 7. For root FS A and B, we're going to use 8 and 9. And then for var A and B, we're going to use 10 and 11. And for our home partition, which is the majority of the space that we're going to have for SteamOS, is going to be partition index 12. Click OK, and we just let it run its course. All right, it is done. When we click proceed, it's going to reboot the system. I'm going to pull my USB storage out once it's done shutting down. All right, and we are in SteamOS. It's our first time boot, and so we're just going to complete the onboarding. All right, so you'll notice this, it doesn't find any networks. This is a known issue. If you're using Ethernet, this can happen on the first boot. So what I'm going to do is plug in a Wi-Fi dongle and reboot. All right, so you'll notice this artifacting. This is a known issue. This has to do with the GameScope compositor. This happens in every Linux distro using the NVIDIA drivers. So this particular issue with the artifacting happens whenever you have HDR enabled at a resolution that's more than 2K. And so I have an ultra wide display that's like 3440 by 1440, I believe, and it has HDR. Look at that, we're back. So let me get logged in. I'm going to cut right here. All right, so I'm back with some settings that have settled things down on this display at least. So this monitor is a LG ultra widescreen display, and it goes up to 100 FPS. But if I set it to 99 instead of 100 and I have HDR enabled, things seem to be happy here. I don't see the artifacting, and I can still use my max game resolution of 3440 by 1440. So everything's happy now. I'm happy with this. So let's play a game. There you have it. This is a first look of NVIDIA running on the real official Valve SteamOS with RTX enabled graphics cards, with DLSS enabled. This is such an exciting time. To say I'm hyped is beyond belief here. I know that I'm not getting any sleep this coming weekend because I'm going to be installing it on my RTX 5080 build. So that's my living room PC, and it's actually behind my TV where I don't see it. And so, oh man, I can't wait. How many of you out there are going to be trying to get this installed on your NVIDIA rig? Drop a comment, let me know. Be sure to hop on our Discord. That's where all the cool cats hang out. We have a lot of detailed discussions there. In the coming weeks, I'm going to be exploring how to get this up and running with an eGPU setup, as well as profiling performance differences between Windows and SteamOS. I suspect we're going to see similar things carry through to like what I've seen in CachyOS. There is a slight performance penalty using NVIDIA hardware under Linux because the driver is just not as mature yet. But even there, in most games, I'm already hitting 120 FPS. I don't care about anything more than that. So I'm okay with the performance hit. I'm excited to have the game mode UI and the Steam console-like experience. Until next time, hit that like button, subscribe, hype the video. That way you don't miss all the amazing tech, toys, and gaming tips we've got coming down the pipeline. I see you've been eyeing my toy of the day here. We've got Kratos from God of War Ragnarok. This just came out. It's hot off the truck. It's a McFarlane Toys action figure. How many of you would like to see me do an unboxing and share some gameplay of God of War Ragnarok? Drop a comment, let me know. Sometimes I find it refreshing to do things that are a little bit less technical, like kick back and play a video game or enjoy unboxing an action figure. So let me know what you think.